Hey everyone, welcome back to another Roman Reacts. We're here tonight to watch another big video. This one is a continuation of the Horus Heresy series, episode 4, and it's entitled The Battle of Isstvan 3, Civil War Begins. And this is where a lot of things are going to go wrong real fast, especially with what happens during these parts where the Great Betrayal kicks in. So yeah, it's going to be a nice one. So let's just get into it. Let's have some fun from Wizards and Warriors, and let's get to it. Okay? Yeah. So there's Horus right there. Yeah, it's going to be a real big mess, especially with the fact that you think you know everything, but there's always something else that surprises you. So here we go.
As the corrupted War Master prepared for war, chaos influence spread like wildfire, setting the stage for the conflict which will be remembered as the Horus Heresy. More Primarchs were to be corrupted, armies needed to be gathered, loyalty had to be affirmed, supplies had to be stocked and supply lines needed to be created. Welcome to our series on Warhammer 40k and the Horus Heresy, explaining the origins of the Imperium and Chaos. In this fourth video, we will explore Horus's preparations for the war and the crucial Isstvan campaign. And we've even got an offer for you from a game the Chaos Gods would absolutely love, a game where you merge bloodlines to make new powerful warriors. It's Bloodline Heroes of Lethus. This is a fantasy hero collecting RPG, where you build a kingdom and collect champions to defend it, but the twist is that you can create new, unique champions by merging bloodlines of various kinds. This gives you thousands of possible hybrids and strategies to try against the various challenges you'll face, raising the perfect heirs for your needs. The game is available for free at our link in the description or the QR code on screen if you're on PC. Every 2 weeks a new bloodline is added. For example, they recently added the Tide Raisers, demigods of the sea, who can be married into your clan to provide their unique abilities to your already massive pool of options. Use such powerful new abilities for the endless challenges of PvP to win unique champions and glory besides, all with beautiful 3D graphics even on mobile devices. Check out the game via our link in the description below or QR code on the screen on PC, and you'll also get a special starter pack worth $20, featuring a summoning crystal, 100,000 gold and 100 diamonds. For even more free stuff, be one of the first 30 people to leave their account ID and username in the comments, and you'll get a legendary champion Luxuriant for free, one of the best mages in the game, giving you a nice head start. After a deadly encounter on Davin, the chaos-corrupted Horus needed to convince his legion to join his cause. To that end, the Sons of Horus and the World Eaters travelled to a star system occupied by the Aretian technocracy, a newly discovered human civilization that used almost the same technology as the Imperium. During the negotiations, it was revealed that the Aretians possessed a functioning STC, an artifact the Mechanicum would do anything to get their hands on. Now having two reasons for war, Horus killed the technocracy's diplomats and a brutal conflict broke out. During this 9-month-long campaign, the Sons of Horus and the World Eaters were being trained to fight soldiers that looked similar to Space Marines. Many warriors had trouble brutally killing people who were so similar to them. This led to the rapid growth of the warrior lodges. Those who didn't join were sent over and over again to the battlefield until they died or joined. Ultimately, around 70% of the Legion became part of the Lodge. However, Gavriel Loken and Tarek Togaden, members of the Mournival, decided to sever ties with this organization. They couldn't comply with their increasingly hegemonic nature, especially after the order to put their Primarch before the Emperor. Additionally, the Mechanicum pledged to give Horus full support for the recovered STCs, giving Horus an edge in the supply axis against the Emperor's forces. The Mechanicum, knowing that the upcoming conflict would be against Space Marines, provided weapons effective against them. The lengthy war against the Aretian technocracy granted the War Master many allies. The Horus Rebellion had the support of his legion, the Mechanicum, and the World Eaters. Additionally, while his soldiers were fighting, Horus was engaged in diplomacy and managed to win the Death Guard and the Emperor's children over to his cause. To cement their alliance, these 4 legions banded together to forge the single largest force since the Battle of Ulanor and set out for a campaign. They ventured to the Isstvan system, where the local populace had overthrown imperial authority. The War Master's army first set out to destroy Isstvan Extremis, a planetoid equipped with long-range scanners that could detect any surprise attacks. The Death Guard and Emperor's children were deployed and started a 2-pronged assault. The rebels didn't try to surrender or flee, not showing even a hint of fear, even as they were slaughtered indiscriminately. Soon it was discovered that they were possessed by war singers, psykers who were augmenting sounds to control humans and using sonic waves as a weapon.
Okay.
After one of these war singers was located and slain, the possessed soldiers lost any will to fight and started crying uncontrollably. With the war singer dead, the station was captured, and an attack on the capital of Isstvan III, Coral City, was possible. The Istvanians had been preparing their capital for war for years now, transforming it into a labyrinth of trenches, underground passages, hundreds of bunkers, minefields, and hidden artillery batteries. All of it protected the only passage to the city, built on a mountain slope. A frontal assault on the city would be costly and lengthy. However, the Istvanians had not prepared for a drop pod attack directly on the city. Horus chose this tactic, handpicking an elite squad of Space Marines loyal to the Emperor, then sent them down to the surface. The only ones who managed to dodge this fate were Nathaniel Garrow from the Death Guard, who got injured on Isstvan Extremis and were sent to a frigate, Eisenstein, and Saul Tarvitz from the Emperor's Children, who got suspicious and swapped his position. All in all, 1 Titan and over 100,000 Space Marines were sent to the surface in 4 locations. The Death Guard and a Titan were sent to the fortifications before the city. Their task was to pin the enemy and gradually root them out. The World Eaters were to secure major roads inside the city. The Sons of Horus were sent to capture the temple and kill war singers as quickly as possible. The Emperor's Children were sent to the palace, where the leader of the rebels resided. All of these tasks were slowly realized, achieved as millions of possessed civilians were attacking relentlessly. The first ones to accomplish their task were the Emperor's Children, when Lucius killed in a duel the former planet gubernator Vardus Praal. While steady progress was being made on the world's surface, Horus started the plan's second phase from orbit. He began priming for an orbital bombardment of virus bombs, warning only those loyal to him within the Titan crew. Saul Tarvitz discovered this horrific plot and descended to the surface with the aid of Nathaniel Garrow, who, after protecting Saul's shuttle, fled to Terra to bring news of treachery. Saul was too late. His warning did not reach all of the Space Marines, with only a few managing to hide in airtight installations, be it bunkers, basements, or catacombs, before the bombs dropped. The first wave of the bombardment was the virus bombs that turned all life on the planet into sludge and gas. 8 billion died in a matter of an hour. Moments later, a single shell ignited these gases, creating a planet-wide raging inferno, scorching anyone who thought it was safe to emerge from their hideouts. After discovering that some of the Loyalists survived, Angron, the World Eater Primarch, descended to the surface to finish the purge. This act angered Horus, who was preparing to finish the fight with conventional orbital bombardment and start the Horus Heresy with initiative. Yet due to the short temper of Angron, he was now pinned to Isstvan III. The Loyalists were scattered rudderlessly throughout the city, and were easy targets for Angron's army, until he encountered the World Eaters he betrayed. Laying eyes upon someone who had sent them to death, the World Eaters furiously charged, resulting in a drawn-out engagement. Many fought with missing limbs, refusing to die until their revenge on Angron could be enacted. Although they ultimately failed and all died, it gave enough time for the remaining Loyalists to gather in the Coral City Palace. The only ones who didn't reach it were the Death Guard, who remained in the trenches. While they had time to retreat, and some even did, both of their commanders died in the virus bombardment. Isolated and without any orders, independent squads used this time to familiarize themselves with the surrounding fortifications, turning them into a death trap. Angron, now without momentum, couldn't breach the palace in a frontal assault. Horus decided to punish his allies for their incompetence, sending them to the surface to help Angron. The Death Guard allowed Nathaniel Garrow to escape the system, and the Emperor's children allowed Saul Tarvitz to stay on the ship, which consequently sparked the beginning of the battle to come. At this point, the remaining Loyalist forces consisted of about 30,000 Space Marines in the palace, under the command of Saul Tarvitz, and an unknown number of the Death Guard in the trenches, but their numbers probably were below 5,000 men. The heretics, meanwhile, descended with the full force of 3 legions, numbering over 130,000 Astartes with armoured support. Their armies split and acted independently. The palace was attacked from all possible directions. The Emperor's children tried to find an opening in the flanks, while Angron attacked from the front. Their attack crashed headlong with a meticulously laid out defense plan. In the center, Angron was ignored, and instead fire was focused on his soldiers. This created gaps in the attack line that isolated Angron and forced him to retreat, albeit wreaking havoc and devastation in the wake of his withdrawal. On the flanks, a multitude of tactics were used to bait overconfident attackers into traps or crossfires. This cycle continued day by day, and casualties mounted on both sides. Meanwhile, the Death Guard fought with themselves in the fortifications. A larger attacking army, under the command of the Primarch Mortarion himself, sprung traps one by one, be it minefields, crossfires, or ambushes. Whenever he thought that it was the end of the hidden Loyalists, another group launched a surprise attack, luring reacting forces into even more traps. This continued for 3 months, but could not last forever, for the defenders' numbers were thinning. In the final days of this prolonged siege, inside the palace, hundreds were wounded, with only a couple of thousand surviving. It was clear that the end was nearing. Resentful after being snubbed of a command post in favour of Saul Tarvitz, Lucius opened a path for the Lord Commander Eidolon inside the palace. Even with the defence line compromised, Saul Tarvitz managed to encircle Eidolon's forces and crush them, with only a handful escaping. But the damage was done. His forces, only a couple of hundred strong, couldn't protect all entrances, and everyone in the infirmary was killed. Around the same time, Mortarion managed to purge all of the trenches. With the battle practically won, Horus decided to show off his strength, sending his legion to the surface. Upon seeing this, Gaviel Loken and Tarik Torgaden sneaked out to kill 2 remaining members of the Moneval. The attempt failed, ending with Tarik dead and Loken buried beneath the rubble. When the combined traitor forces rallied in front of the palace, they shelled it to soften the defences, but instead the damaged palace collapsed. The traitor armies retreated and bombarded the remains from orbit. In the end, these legions lost about 50% of their strength. These losses, although substantial, would be negligible if the traitors could still maintain the initiative and an element of surprise. However, this was not to be. The valiant 3-month-long last stand by the Loyalists on Isstvan would have been forgotten to the whole galaxy if not for the frigate Eisenstein. 3 months earlier, when Saul Tarvitz descended to the surface with the warning of the virus bombardment, Nathaniel Garrow managed to narrowly escape from the Isstvan system. His ship was heavily damaged and its warp shields were destroyed. Inside the Immaterium, a storm was raging, completely blinding the astropath. Soon demons boarded the ship and started slaughtering the crew. The only way to escape this life or death situation was to do an emergency warp exit. In this maneuver, the astropath died, and the ship was stranded in an empty point of space. With enough supplies for the month, and the closest star years away in sublight speed travel, they were doomed to die. Nathaniel Garrow decided to bet their lives on a risky gamble. He detonated their warp engine, hoping that someone would notice it and check their position. The explosion almost destroyed the ship, with all of its systems ceasing to function. Now they would all freeze to death in just a few days. But the gamble paid off. Soon, the fleet of the Imperial Fists, under the command of the Primarch Rogal Dorn, arrived with help. This fleet had been trapped inside the warp storm, like the Issenstein. However, the detonation of the warp engine served as a lighthouse, allowing them to escape.
Really?
On Rogal Dorn's flagship, the Phalanx, Garrow was interrogated. His news of Horus's, Angron's, Mortarian's, and Fulgrim's betrayal only angered Dorn. He could not believe that it was possible. The one who convinced him was a civilian from Horus's fleet, Euphrati Keeler. She showed photos of Horus ordering the execution of all civilians in his fleet while he started the virus bombardment. Even with such conclusive evidence, Rogal Dorn didn't want to accept the truth. When the fleet arrived at Terra, the survivors from the Eisenstein were thrown into prison on Luna. There, Sisters of Silence for weeks kept a watchful eye on them. It seemed impossible that the soldiers had betrayed their beloved Primarch, escaped a giant fleet in a small frigate, survived warp jump without warp shields, then encountered demons, something only a select few knew of. These survivors had to be exceptional fighters, even for a Space Marine standard, have unwavering loyalty to the Emperor, and be resistant to the temptations of chaos. Seeing their commitment after killing another demon inside the prison, Malcador, the Regent of Terra, released them from their confinement. Nathaniel Garrow, for his part, was chosen as the first Knight-Errant. This small group of Space Marines served directly under Malcador. They were sent on covert operations to complete vital tasks throughout the entire Horus Heresy. After gathering many like-minded Astartes, including Gavial Loken, they would eventually transform into Grey Knights, the secret anti-demon Space Marine chapter. But there was one more consequence of the Eisenstein's arrival on Terra. Almost all of the survivors believed that the Emperor was the god of mankind. This illegal belief was backed up by proof. Euphrati Keeler, while still in Horus's fleet, managed to banish a demon by holding the pendant of her religion and cursing it to return to the Immaterium on the Emperor's name. This achievement made her a saint for all believers, and soon many more started joining her religion, especially after Kirill Sinderman, chief propagator of Imperial truth, joined the church. Euphrati did not stop with her miracles. She was prophetic, her words always reaching the deepest part of the soul, and soon she began banishing even more demons. On Terra, she was confined in a prison as an anomaly. Even imprisoned, her influence was converting thousands to her cause. This was the beginning of abandoning the Imperial truth in favor of faith in the God Emperor. The Horus Heresy had begun. The purge of 4 legions was successful, and still one ship escaped. One small frigate that changed the fate of the war, relaying the message to Terra and freeing Imperial fists from the warp storm, all using the time that the Loyalists had bought on Isstvan III. True heroes who stood their ground for 3 months against an overwhelming force. How will Horus adapt his plans? How will the Emperor react to this betrayal? Find out in the next episode. Our series on the Warhammer 40k Horus Heresy will continue, so make sure you are subscribed and have pressed the bell button to see it. Please consider liking, commenting and sharing, it helps immensely. Our videos would be impossible without our kind patrons and YouTube channel members, whose ranks you can join via the links in the description to know our schedule, get early access to our videos, access our Discord, and much more. This is the Wizards and Warriors channel, and we will catch you on the next one.
My gosh. It's so crazy to me how committed Horus was to trying to convince everyone to join his cause, to join his side. And then those that remained loyal to the Emperor, he kept sending down into death traps, into facing off until they either died on the battlefield or joined them later on. And then when it was taking too long, they had to effectively purge the rest of them on Isstvan III, which is such a tragedy when you think about it. But just for both Nathaniel Garrow or Nathaniel. Sorry, I'm trying to think and speak at the same time here. Just kind of let me find this video. Where was it? Was it here? Soltarvitz, my bad. So it was Nathaniel Garrow. He fled and helped Soltarvitz get to the planet, and Soltarvitz basically gave his life defending for 3 months, which stalled Horus's heresy. It stalled his civil war, and also gave time for the Isstvan, sorry, cat, the members on the on that ship to survive and get to Terra, and just everything about this is just nuts. Like every little thing, every little stuff that you may think will take place, it's just one big thing that just gets thrown in after the other, and like but the little things that make it worthwhile is where, if it weren't for Garrow fleeing to Terra, and then I think they forgot to mention that Loken, he had escaped from Isstvan, but his mind was broken and lost, and he was not himself for a number of years until eventually he got found and brought back to the into the Imperium, and he recovered. But I guess maybe that'll be mentioned later. But it's so maddening to like see how they've just half their like 7 out of 10 traitors decided to eliminate the rest of their legions without any thought or purpose, and not even question, because it's Horus we must follow, not the emperors. But just everything about this is just nuts, and this is such an amazing story, so full of hope, but also much great heartache, because everything that they tried to do at the end, Chaos was always trying to be one step ahead of everything, and Horus managed to do just that against his own legions, especially the Luna Wolves, the old Emperor's Children, the Death Guard, and World Eaters. But yeah, it's a tragedy, and no doubt the next ones are going to be even more tragic. So anyway, that is it for me, guys. Hope you enjoyed this. This was a fantastic thing to watch. Very like informative about what happened during this time period. There's more stuff going to be happening soon, so we'll keep watch of that. I'll post a thing for Wizards Warriors. I'll post a random video for you guys to watch. Be sure to check out the subscribe button, which is about here somewhere, and I'll leave a link for the original video down in the description. So anyways, that's all for now. Thank you for watching, and Romans, salute.
If you like Romans content and wish to see more, like and subscribe to continue to support the channel.